The history of Australia is deeply intertwined with its convict past. From 1788 to 1868, thousands of men, women, and children were transported to this distant land. They were convicts, found guilty of crimes in Britain, and sentenced to hard labor in a new and unforgiving environment. Their arrival marked the beginning of European settlement in Australia, forever shaping its social, political, and cultural landscape. These convicts played a pivotal role in building the foundations of modern Australia. The decision to choose Australia as a penal colony was influenced by practical and strategic considerations. Its geographical isolation made it an ideal location to house convicts, far removed from British shores. The vastness of the continent meant ample land was available for settlement and development. Australia's strategic location in the South Pacific held geopolitical significance for Britain. Establishing a presence there would allow Britain to exert influence in the region. The transportation of convicts to Australia was not without its critics. Many argued that it was a cruel and inhumane system, subjecting individuals to harsh treatment and exploitation. However, the system persisted for decades, driven by economic imperatives and a belief in the potential of this new land to reform even the most hardened criminals. For those condemned to transportation, the journey to Australia began with a long and arduous journey by sea. After sentencing, convicts were taken from prisons across Britain to designated ports. The ships used for transportation were notorious for their harsh and unforgiving environments. The voyage itself, lasting anywhere from 3 to 6 months, was fraught with peril. Exposure to the elements, inadequate sanitation, and limited access to fresh food and water made disease rampant. Life aboard the convict ships, often referred to as floating hells, was a harsh and unforgiving experience. Convicts were divided by gender, with men typically confined to the lower decks and women housed separately. The cramped quarters offered little respite from the oppressive atmosphere. The convicts' days were marked by a monotonous routine of meals, work, and prayer. Punishment for even minor infractions was swift and brutal, creating an atmosphere of constant tension and fear. The sight of land after months at sea brought a mixture of relief and trepidation to the weary travelers. Upon arrival, convicts underwent a process of inspection and sorting. They were assigned to various tasks, with some sent to remote areas. Many were put to work building infrastructure, contributing to the settlement's development. The initial period was challenging as they adapted to their new roles and environment. Through perseverance, some found ways to improve their conditions and integrate into the community, gaining respect through hard work and dedication. Across Australia, numerous sites stand as stark reminders of the nation's convict past. Port Arthur, located on the Tasman Peninsula in Tasmania, is a significant site in Australia's convict history. Established in 1830, it quickly became infamous for its harsh conditions and inescapability. Hyde Park Barracks in Sydney, built in 1819, was a key location for processing male convicts arriving in New South Wales. Fremantle Prison in Western Australia, constructed by convict labour in the 1850s, marks a later phase in the convict system. These sites provide a direct link to Australia's convict era, encouraging reflection on the lasting impact of this period. Situated on a remote peninsula, accessible only by a narrow isthmus heavily guarded, Port Arthur was meticulously designed to prevent escape. It housed some of the most notorious convicts, those who had committed further offences within the colony or were deemed incorrigible. Inside, a regime of strict discipline and severe punishment was enforced. Convicts at Port Arthur faced grueling labour, often under brutal conditions. The separate prison system, introduced in the 1840s, aimed to break the convicts' spirits through isolation and silence. Despite its harsh reputation, Port Arthur was not without efforts at reform. Some convicts were trained in various trades, providing them with a chance for a better life post-sentence. Hyde Park Barracks is a significant landmark in the history of New South Wales. Designed by convict architect Francis Greenway and completed in 1819, it initially housed up to 600 male convicts. The barracks hosted a diverse group of convicts, each with unique skills and backgrounds. Many convicts were assigned to work gangs, contributing to public projects across Sydney. Life at the barracks was highly regimented, with a strict daily schedule of work, meals, and prayers. Despite the challenges, Hyde Park Barracks also offered opportunities for transition and growth. Over the years, Hyde Park Barracks evolved to meet changing social needs, eventually becoming a museum. The daily life of a convict in Australia was harsh and regimented, dictated by the unforgiving rhythm of sunrise and sunset. The day typically began before dawn, with the shrill call of a whistle or the clang of a bell rousing the convicts from their slumber. Bleary-eyed and stiff from sleeping on hard pallets, they lined up for a meager breakfast of gruel or bread. Once the sun had climbed above the horizon, the day's labor commenced. Convicts were assigned to a variety of tasks, depending on their skills and the needs of the colony. The work was arduous and unrelenting, performed under the watchful eyes of overseers who demanded obedience and efficiency. As dusk approached, the convicts returned to their barracks, exhausted and hungry. After a simple dinner, they were allowed a brief period of free time before lights out. The experiences of female convicts in Australia were distinct and no less challenging. Upon arrival, women were often assigned to work in government institutions such as hospitals, orphanages, and factories. Others were placed in domestic service, working as cooks, maids, and laundresses for free settlers. Life for female convicts was often characterized by a different set of hardships. They were vulnerable to exploitation and abuse at the hands of those in authority. However, women also found ways to carve out spaces of agency and resilience within the confines of the convict system. Some women used their skills to gain a measure of independence, establishing small businesses or working as midwives and healers within their communities. The convict system, for all its brutality and injustice, inadvertently fostered the development of a unique set of skills and a spirit of resilience among the transported population. Convicts, drawn from a variety of backgrounds and trades, brought with them a diverse range of knowledge and expertise. They built houses, cleared land, cultivated crops, and established industries, laying the groundwork for the economic and social development of Australia. The convict system also bred a culture of resistance. Convicts challenged their confinement through acts of defiance, both small and large. The skills, knowledge, and even the acts of resistance exhibited by convicts left an indelible mark on the nation's character. By the mid-19th century, the tide began to turn against transportation. In the colonies, a burgeoning sense of identity, distinct from its convict origins, began to emerge. A growing free settler population increasingly viewed transportation as a stain on the colony's reputation. Meanwhile, back in Britain, social reformers and humanitarian groups had long condemned the brutality and ineffectiveness of the transportation system. The discovery of gold in Australia in the 1850s hastened the demise of transportation. The allure of gold drew thousands of free settlers to Australia, eager to seize the opportunity for wealth and a fresh start. The final chapter in Australia's convict transportation saga unfolded gradually, marked by a series of legislative acts and shifting political winds. In 1840, transportation to New South Wales, the colony that had received the largest number of convicts, was officially abolished. Other colonies followed suit in the ensuing years, with Western Australia receiving the last convicts in 1868. The end of transportation did not, however, signal an immediate end to the social and economic structures that had shaped colonial Australia. Many ex-convicts, having served their sentences or earned their freedom, chose to remain in Australia, their lives and destinies now intertwined with the fate of the nation they had helped to build. The legacy of the convict system continued to cast a long shadow over Australian society, influencing attitudes towards class, labour, and social mobility for generations to come. The end of transportation allowed Australia to shed its image as a penal colony and embark on a new chapter in its history. It paved the way for the rise of a more egalitarian society, fueled by the aspirations of free settlers and the contributions of emancipated convicts and their descendants. However, the transition was not without its challenges. The social stigma associated with convict ancestry persisted, often leading to discrimination and prejudice. The legacy of the convict system, with its emphasis on punishment and control, also left its mark on Australian institutions, influencing the development of its legal system, its approach to law enforcement, and its social welfare policies. Today, Australia's convict sites stand as poignant reminders of a complex and often troubled past. They are not merely relics of a bygone era, but rather tangible links to the experiences of those who were transported, their struggles, their resilience, and their enduring impact on the nation's identity. Preserving these sites is not about glorifying the convict system or minimizing the suffering it inflicted. It is about acknowledging a fundamental chapter in Australia's history, one that shaped its social fabric, its cultural landscape, and the very character of its people. These sites offer valuable insights into the lives of convicts, the challenges they faced, the skills they possessed, and the contributions they made to the development of a new nation. They provide a tangible connection to the past, allowing us to learn from the mistakes and triumphs of previous generations. In recent decades, there has been a growing movement to recognize and commemorate Australia's convict heritage. Many convict sites have been meticulously restored and transformed into museums, heritage parks, and educational centers. They have become popular tourist destinations, drawing visitors from around the world eager to learn about this unique and often overlooked aspect of Australian history. The preservation of Australia's convict sites is a profound act of honouring our past. It is a recognition of the nation's complex history. These sites, often stark and imposing, stand as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the capacity for transformation, and the enduring power of hope in the face of adversity. They remind us that Australia's story is not one of seamless progress, but rather a tapestry woven from threads of hardship, struggle, and ultimately, triumph. The descendants of convicts now embrace their heritage, recognizing the strength, determination, and resourcefulness passed down through generations. These sites serve as a source of pride, a testament to the indomitable spirit that shaped a nation. The preservation of these sites highlights the resilience of history and its role in shaping our collective identity. By safeguarding these connections, Australia embraces its multifaceted past and rich cultural tapestry. These sites serve as a bridge across time, linking the challenges of yesteryears with today's aspirations. They provide a sanctuary for contemplation, honoring memory and fostering reconciliation. By addressing historical wrongs, Australia paves the way for a fair and inclusive future. The convict legacy underscores the importance of empathy, awareness, and our shared human experience.